Hello again, YouTubers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play the second edition of Murder of Crows. Now, Murder of Crows was designed by Eduardo Baraf and Thomas Denmark. There are their names there. And it was published by Atlas Games. Now, this game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, and is listed as a 20-minute game. So let's start there. Now, I have to draw attention while talking about this, about what is different from first edition Murder of Crows to second edition Murder of Crows. And now, if you already have first edition, the main differences are this nice metal case that it comes in, the fact that the cards themselves are tarot-sized cards and not poker-sized cards that they were in the first edition, as well as that there is a new alternate playstyle called the Murdered Third, specifically for 2 players. So here's the thing, the 2 to 5 player mark. Now, this game plays really well at 3 to 5 players with the standard rules. With 2 players, it's just very back and forth and doesn't feel like there's a lot of variety. So they added in this other alternate play style, the Murdered Third, to play 2 players. But the alternate play style plays like a totally different game, and I don't really like it. So I do have to say that the player count really should be 3 to 5 for this game. This is more like a icebreaker or filler game that you play when you have 3 to 5 people to play a game. I don't recommend it at 2 players. Now, as for the ages 13 and up, this feels like a definite overestimate based on the complexity of the mechanics. This game is very simple, easy to learn, easy to teach. The only thing I can think of is that they were thinking that the concept of spelling out a murder might be a bit adult for someone under 13. But it's really tongue-in-cheek. It's very light. I mean, if your kid is old enough to read children's books like the Harry Potter books where people get killed, it happens. I don't think they're too young to play this game. I mean, it's not a very dark game. It's got dark humor in it, but it's kind of silly. It's more humorous than anything else. And so I really do think this is a significant overestimate. I think it should more be like about 8 and up, personally. And as for the 20 minutes, that's a pretty good estimate, but I've had games that have gone a lot quicker than that, especially at 3 players. They go very, very fast. It can be 15 minutes, actually. So let's open it up, and I'm going to show you everything that comes in the tin. The first thing you have is the rule book. Now, the rule book is nice. It is full color. It gives you lots of explanations and diagrams showing you how it is you do the different things in the game. It's very well structured. It's easy to understand, and it's only about 6.5 pages long. You're going to be playing this game, if you buy it, in 5 minutes. You're going to read this book, and you're going to teach everybody else, and you're going to be ready to go. Very easy to understand, very well put together rulebook. No complaints about that. Now, inside the box, we've got some advertisements for some other games. Then we have a thing saying to follow them on social media, and then we have the actual game components here. Now, this is a cheat sheet for the Murdered Third, which is the alternate way to play at 2 players. Then we have cheat sheets, 5 of them, 1 for each of the 5 players, which I really like that they included 1 for every player in here for the standard rules of what each of the letters does. And then we have the primary game component, which is the deck of cards. They are tarot-sized cards with beautiful artwork. I love the artwork on here. And each card has the important information of what letter the card is. In this case, this is a letter M card. How many ravens it has on it. In this case, it has 1 raven on that branch there. And the part of the story that it is going to tell. Now, that's all you need on all of the cards. Again, for instance, this is the letter E with 3 ravens and its bit of the story. And then you have also some wild cards, which are called wild crows. Now, I was saying ravens, I should be saying crows. So this is what the game looks like. It is a pretty simple game where you are trying to do some hand management. It's got some take that elements, and it's got some set collecting elements as well, because you're attempting to spell out the word murder in front of you. The first person to spell out the word murder gets to win and read the story of their murder, which is different every time based on the combination of cards you put out, and that is crazy cool. Now, the take that elements come in with the fact that the different letters, all of them with the exception of R, have take that elements that they will do to your opponents unless they can discard a card with the same number of ravens on it or discard a wild crow card. So without any further ado, I'm going to take you to the table and I'm going to run you through a few turns of a game so you can see how this game is played. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to tell you how it feels, I'm going to rate it and review it, and we're going to get a second opinion from Len. Okay, so here we can see a 3-player game of Murder of Crows set up. It's fairly easy to set up. Everybody takes a cheat sheet to remind themselves of the abilities of each of the letters, and then you shuffle the deck and deal out randomly 4 cards to the first player. This is the first player over here with their 4 cards, and everyone else gets 5 cards in their hand. Then, one at a time, starting with the first player and going clockwise around the table, you each take turns. Now, on your turn, you can either draw 1 card and play 1 card, taking its ability, or you can draw 2 cards if you so choose, which is a nice option to have. So the first player is going to take a look at their hand, and they're going to draw 1 card, and they're going to play the only card without an offensive ability because it's a really good card to play defensively early on, and that is the R card. Now the R card, again, also is the only card that can't be blocked because it doesn't have an offensive ability. It does not hurt the other players. The R card's abilities, they get to draw another card. So they get to increase the size of their hand. So then they're done. So now it is time for the second player's turn. The second player takes a look and they draw a card. And then they also are going to play an R card and draw an extra card. So now both players have started out their murders with the letter R. The third player is going to take a look and they're going to draw a card, and they decide they're going to be a little bit more offensive. And what they're going to do is they're going to play the letter M. Now the letter M says misplaced. Take 1 card from any other murder and put it directly into your hand. Now the murder is the cards you have already out. So they're looking to steal one of the R's from the other players. So when you do this, you have to, because this is one of the offensive abilities, you have to announce M, 2 crows. Now the other players have to decide whether they're going to allow you to possibly choose to steal a card from them, or they're going to discard a 2 crow card. So in the case of player 1, they're going to discard this card here. It's a D with 2 crows. It has to have the same number of crows on it as the card that was played for the ability. On the other hand, it is possible to discard a wild crow card, which player 2 will do, and that is allowed to counteract the ability of any card. So they decide they want to get rid of one of their wild crow cards so that the third player will not be able to steal a card from them. So then in this case, their ability does not take effect. So now it is back to player 1 and they draw a card, and continuing to play defensively, they decide to play another R and draw yet another card. Going on to player 2 draws a card and they decide they're going to play the letter U, which has the ability that says others reveal their hands and they get to choose 1 card from any of the hands and they get it. They get to take it. So now, again, they have to announce how many crows. So this is a 3-crow U. Let me show that to you. It's got 3 crows on the top of the card here. So the other players can stop it by discarding a 3-crow card or by discarding a wild crow card. So player 3 is going to discard a 3-crow card themselves, and player 1 is going to have a look and also discard a 3-crow card to stop them from being able to steal one of their cards. So it's player 3's turn. Player 3 is going to draw a card, and they're going to play an R so they can draw another card. Then we're back to player 1. And player 1, now just to show you how this would work, player 1 is going to play a wild crow card instead of playing a U. Now the thing about this is, when you play a wild crow card, you can either take the effect of the letter, or you can remove an entire stack from one of your opponent's murders. Now, what do I mean by stack? You're actually able to play letters you've already played, and if you do, for instance, let's say player 2 had gotten the chance to play another U card, here's the U card, they just put it on top of the U already there. And if a card ability allows you to remove one of the cards, you just remove the top one, you still have another one underneath. It's like a fail-safe. But with the wild crow card, you can either take the ability of the letter, or you can remove a whole stack if someone has a real nice fail-safe there. But in this case, they're going to do it to use the U ability. And when they do this, it can only be blocked by discarding another wild crow, because wild crows are special. So the other players, the second player does not have any wild crows to discard, and they say so. And the first player also does not have any wild crows to discard, and they say so. So the ability has to take effect. And again, the U ability is that they reveal their hands, and the first player gets to choose one of the cards to take. So they're going to lay their hands out on the table for everyone to see. And the first player is going to say, you know what? I need a letter E. So I'm going to take that letter E from player 3 here and add it to my hand, and that's it for the turn for player 1. So now this goes around the table, and everyone continues taking turns until someone is able to spell out the entire word murder. So let me show you that here. So we have, now the wild crow was a U, so we have M-U-R-D-E-R. So here we go. Now they just need one of each of the letters except for the R's, and then the R's they need 2 of to spell out the word murder. At this point, they claim victory, and if they used any wild crow cards, they grab a appropriate letter to replace it from somewhere else on the table. So in this case, it's a U, so they just grab a random U, and they get to actually read out the story of the murder that they have uncovered. So I'm going to move the camera here now so you can see the murder, and I'm going to read it with you. It says, "Voices whispered in a grove of weeping willows when Joe Gooseberry, after being rejected, used a lighter to immolate Eddie Taskmaster." And that's the story of the murder that you've uncovered. And there's lots of really cool cards in here, very inventive ways to kill people, including in one case, there's even a card that allows you to have the victim having been mauled by poodles. It's some interesting dark humor stuff, but that is how you play a game of Murder of Crows. So now we're going to head back. I'm going to tell you how it feels. I'm going to review it. I'm going to rate it, and we're going to get a second opinion from Lynn. Welcome back. So that was how you play a game of Murder of Crows. So I realized only afterwards that I did not actually tell you what all the different letter abilities are, so I want to run through the few that I did not use there. I told you M was that it allowed you to take a card from someone else's murder and put it into your hand. Uncover allowed you to see everyone's hands and take a card to put in your hand. And R, of course, allowed you to do Reap, which allowed you to draw an extra card. Now, we did not go over D and E. D is Drain, which, if it is not completely blocked, you choose a letter, and all other players must discard one card of that letter from their murders. And E If it is not completely blocked, anyone who doesn't block it has to discard their entire hand and draw only 3 cards to replace it. Now, this is a very characterful little game. It is a quick game. It is light. It is fast. Let's go over some of the good and let's go over some of the bad. Now, I'm going to start with the bad. So first off, this game doesn't play very well at 2 players. It claims to be a 2 to 5 player game, and I already touched on this in the beginning of this video. It's really a 3 to 5 player game. And they must have realized that there were some issues with how this game played at 2 players in the first edition, because then they put in this alternate method of play in the murdered third alternate play style. Now, while the normal 2-player version is a little too back and forth and not very good, nowhere near as interesting as the 3 to 5 players, the murdered third doesn't really fix that for me. The murdered third plays a little strange. It plays very different from the normal game. You have a third ghost player who just flips over a card every turn, which has a new set of abilities that cannot be blocked and feels very frustrating generally. I don't really like the murdered third. Now let's go over the good. The way this game is obviously meant to be played is with 3 to 5 players, and in those player counts, this game is great. It plays really, really well. I really enjoy it at 3 to 5 players as either a filler or an icebreaker game. An icebreaker game for me is the first game of the night. You want it to be something you can explain very, very quickly. That's not going to intimidate new players or new members to the group, that gets everybody in a happy mood to keep playing games, and this is a great game for that element. The abilities don't feel too much like you're picking on one person because they affect everyone, and then everyone has a chance to stop them. And you do a bit of hand management, trying to save up wild crows to make sure you'll be able to stop those all-important abilities later on in the game, or possibly do an all-important ability that then is harder for other people to block because you need a wild crow to block a wild crow. And in that regard, there is some strategy and some definite hand management elements. And the game itself is mainly a set collecting game as you're trying to lay out the word murder. You're trying to collect the right collection of letters to win. And a lot of the abilities do give you the strategic ability, or the maybe more appropriately the tactical ability, to steal the letters that you haven't been able to find through random drawing, because you can steal the right letter from someone's hand or from someone's murder that you definitely know is there if you play the right card. So it's quite fun. It doesn't feel too vicious. It's over very quickly. It's only about 15 minutes to 20 minutes in most of the games I've played of this, some of them even quicker. I've actually had one game that was only about 10 minutes with 3 players. So it's the right amount of time for the type of game that it is, and it's very enjoyable. And one of the most fun parts of this game is when you're done getting to read out the story of the murder. And this is a game that I have found, especially because of how quick it is, that once you play a game of it, most often so far, everybody looks around and says, does everybody want to play that again? And that's great. I mean, this is the sort of game you play 2 or 3 times and then move on to something heavier on game night. And in that case, for me, this is a solid 7 out of 10 star game. I really enjoy this. I'm going to play it many more times in the future. I'm so far not getting tired of it at all. It only is so low on the star scale because there is not a huge amount of depth to it. It's a fairly simple hand management set collecting game, but it doesn't pretend to be anything else, and it does what it sets out to do as a 3 to 5 player game. But do be warned, this is really not a 2-player game, and this is one of those games where I feel like the company put 2 players on the box just to try to sell more copies of it. So don't buy this expecting it to be a good game for 2 players. But if you are looking for a fun icebreaker or filler game for 3 to 5 players on game night, you could do a heck of a lot worse than picking up Murder of Crows. I've really enjoyed it, but let's get a second opinion from Lynn, because opinions do differ. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 would you give to Murder of Crows?
8.
Wow, so Lynn liked this game even more than I did. Now, I gave it a 7, which means I really like it, and I'm going to play it anytime someone asks. But Lynn has given this game an 8 out of 10 stars, which means she absolutely loves this game. She's having a lot of fun playing it, and she's going to want to play it all the time. So an 8 is a really high score. 7's a very positive score. In both cases, this is definitely a 2 thumbs up from us here at the Board Game Captain. So, have you played Murder of Crows? Did you play the first edition? Did I forget anything? Do you want to comment on anything? Feel free to put comments down below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more review and tutorial videos like this, be sure to give this video a like, share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain, that's Captain spelled with a K, on YouTube. And until next time, game on.